Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen. We are live here with our DWZ Coffee Talk and MRI report for Week 14. This is a dual episode, all in one, combined. I'm here with Dr. Kyle at DWZ underscore Dr. PT. He's a board-certified doctor of physical therapy. How are you doing today, Kyle?
I'm good. Just wrapped up the big bet with Memphis. Don't love the week from a betting standpoint, but what do you expect in Week 15? It's the NFL. There's parity. Shit's flying everywhere. There's COVID flying everywhere. There's injuries flying everywhere. Lamar Jackson's shitting in the stall in the middle of the fourth quarter. This is it. This is the NFL, the National Football League.
Yeah, and if you don't have trade deadlines, now's the time to take advantage of those guys who just lost their playoff matchups. They're tilted. They're going to be looking to sell their assets. You know, I took advantage of some. I don't do trade deadlines because I think they're evil. And there's a couple of trades that I made this week that have put me in favorable position to win my playoff matchups. Like I traded Antonio Gibson, and
Matt,
of course,
you love Antonio Gibson.
I do love Antonio Gibson, but guess who I traded him for?
Who? Chris Carson.
Dalvin Cook. I traded Antonio Gibson and Jerry Jeudy for Dalvin Cook in a league where I needed running back badly. I needed one guy to push me over the edge because I won a playoff matchup that I shouldn't have. And now I'm favored to win my next one too because of Dalvin Cook.
Maddie, you know what I like more than any player in the NFL for fantasy purposes? Money in my bank account.
Mm-hmm.
If you aren't playing to win at some point, just stop playing. I love that move.
Yeah.
You gave up one of your favorite players because you're like, I want the money. I want the big bucks. I want that Taco Bell for free.
Exactly.
For the next 6 weeks.
And you know, starting Adrian Peterson and Kareem Hunt will only win you so many playoff matchups to where you have to go out and acquire someone. So finding out that I won a playoff matchup in that league, which was surprising, I had to go make a move, and that's what I did. And there's some other moves that I made that were some good moves for some leagues where I moved Kenny Galladay, et cetera. And with Joe Burrow, I moved Kenny Galladay to get like Josh Allen and Michael Pittman Jr. So that was a good move for me where I get to start some guys now to hopefully win some playoff matchups and make some money now instead of later. Because, you know, why wait on those assets when I could go sell them for someone like a Josh Allen who can be an elite quarterback for me for the next couple of years? Whereas Joe Burrow, there's some risk coming to Joe Burrow because if they don't draft offensive linemen, where is he going to be at next year? Yep. So we'll see with that, and that's why I'm happy to get away from some of my Joe Burrow shares because I was so heavily invested in Joe Burrow this year. But yeah, how about you, man? Have you made any moves this past week or two? Or are you all trade deadlined out?
You know what really hurts right now? Oh my god! This year hasn't been great from a fantasy perspective, and part of the reason why is I fucking blow it on waivers every week, and my FFPC Dynasty waivers have to be in by 10 p.m. on Wednesday. So every other league is Tuesday night. FFPC is Wednesday night, but it's right when Memphis and I are starting the big bet. I think I got most of him during the day, but I'm all in. I'm spending what I got on Lynn Bowden. I think the Dolphins are now realizing what they have in a jackknife of an athlete, and I think he's good if you're a competitor. In FFPC, he's got dual running back wide receiver capability. DraftKings, he's only got wide receivers. Memphis and I just talked about that, but he's super cheap, and they are hurting. We'll talk about what's going on with Gesicki and Devontae Parker. Preston Williams is already out of there. Jeff Wilson, Lynn Bowden, my one home league, quick story. Home league, this one matters more than any because there's shit talk. We're in season 4 of that. The first 2 seasons I won, everybody hates me. One of the guys in the league thinks I cheat somehow, which is impossible, but I just had my first year. I managed to draft Kareem Hunt and Alvin Kamara for fucking value, 3-team keeper league at drafting value. So I basically had set everything up nicely. But anyway, this week my team Mixon, floundering, Miles Sanders. Why I shit the bed this year. I was on a lot of other guys, but Miles Sanders, man, couldn't have been more wrong about until now. Maybe he's revived, and in this league, he helped me this week. I recently moved James Robinson at a 9th round value for Derrick Henry, who I don't think will be able to be kept next year. But I love Derrick Henry's playoff matchups. Anyway, going into Sunday night, I'm up like 30 points with Hollywood Brown to go. PPR, my man's got Nick Chubb and Deontay Johnson to go. Deontay Johnson basically lays a goose. The Steelers did not come to play on offense against the Bills. Yeah, and thank God, because then going into Monday, I was up like 25 points. I'm like, all right, so what's Nick Chubb got to do to score 25 points against the Ravens tonight? And in my head, I'm like, all right, basically he's got to get like 85 to 100 yards, but score 2 touchdowns. And so, of course, like 8:30 rolls around. I'm like, oh, let's just see what's going on in the game. First touchdown scored by the Browns, Nick Chubb, and basically they just ran down the field. A couple drives later, they run down the field again. Nick Chubb at halftime has like 77 yards. 77 yards and 2 touchdowns. All of a sudden, I'm up by like 1.5 points. Hollywood Brown hasn't even absorbed a target. Like the ball hasn't even been thrown his way. I'm like, are you fucking kidding? And not to mention, like Lamar Jackson was running for his life in the backfield. Mm-hmm. That offensive line is in shambles. The Browns' defensive line looked good. And also, like, I wonder if teams have like equipment consultants. Lamar Jackson was slipping all over the turf there. It's not the first time the Ravens have played in Cleveland. You have to understand, like, at least what the potential for the turf is going to be, and that's very important for a scrambling quarterback. I digress. But anyway, so at halftime, I think I'm squeaking by a 1.5, but I just feel like Nick Chubb is only going to eat again. But in my mind, Maddie, I put it into the universe. I put a Hollywood Brown touchdown from Lamar Jackson into the universe, and I also said, we haven't seen much Kareem Hunt in the first half. What if the Browns just all of a sudden decide, okay, now we unleash the hunt? And sure enough, Nick Chubb, I think, only got 2 more fantasy points the rest of the game. Kareem Hunt had a day. Kareem Hunt is actually how my buddy ended up beating the Mahomes Hill stack I was talking about earlier before we got on. I now realize that was before we got on. I digress again. Mm-hmm. But the Hollywood Brown touchdown happened, and I won by like 12 points. And the kicker is, so this is a 3-player keeper league where you keep based on where the guy was drafted. If you keep him more than a year, you lose a round of value each year. Hollywood Brown was a 15th round pick his rookie year. And so I got to keep him for 15th round. So there was a guy I knew who didn't want to keep him. So I threw him like a 10th round pick so I could keep him for a 15th round pick as just like, okay, yeah, it's a flyer and he hasn't really panned out, but a 15th round pick to keep a guy who is potential for like top 30, top 40 wide receiver easily. It hasn't panned out. Yeah. I don't know why, but that guy traded him to me and he was the dagger in the coffin, and I'll send him this take tomorrow. So I advanced.
You sent him a gif of Hollywood Brown doing his little dance, and he'll have some fits. I was a big guy into Hollywood Brown this offseason. I liked Hollywood Brown as my wide receiver 3 going into the year. As a guy who's a wide receiver 3 on my team, not the wide receiver 3 overall, but I had him on my team in a lot of leagues, and a lot of leagues he didn't pan out as well. But in a lot of leagues this week in the playoff matchups I was in with him in there, he's the guy who pushed me over the edge to win, because there's a couple leagues where I only won by about 5 to 10 points, and that Hollywood Brown touchdown gave me those 5 to 10 points I needed.
Sometimes you just got to play the upside.
Yeah, and speaking about upside plays, Jerry in Memphis, this is a little curveball to you. This is what we're doing on the Coffee Talk. We don't have a show sheet. We're going free flow here. Always. They talked about their top 5 wide receivers of the 2021 Dynasty class. And I'm here to add some more names to your list because they did the top 5. We're going to give you 5 more names.
Whoa.
So this is a little bonus content here. 5 more names for you guys to watch. 5 more names for you guys to draft. And I'm excited because I have some good names on here that I really like. There's some good guys on here like certain LSU wide receiver who's the first one I'm going to talk about. Terrace Marshall. Mm-hmm. Have you heard that name, Terrace Marshall?
I have.
Good, because you'll want to hear him. He's climbing up boards so fast. he's slowly becoming about the wide receiver 5, slowly taking Bateman's spot. And I will still have to study his 2020 game, but his 2019 game was very, very fun to watch. It was the 5th, the 6th option on the LSU national championship team, but he still put up production. And then he comes back, he puts up production. Then LSU's not going anywhere, so he decides to sit out. I think Marshall's going to be a fantastic dynasty asset to get at the start of the second round, middle of the second round this year. Watch out for Terrace Marshall. He's fast. He's tall. He's an LSU wide receiver who's fast and tall, so he's going to be pretty good in the NFL. And there's another guy who's on this list who coming out of USC. He's a very sticky hand slot guy. His name's Amon-Ra St. Brown. That is not a typo. Amon-Ra St. Brown is my next wide receiver on the list. He's my 7th wide receiver in this class. He's a tall slot guy, but he can play anywhere over the field. He struggles to create separation, even though he's a slot guy. That's kind of nerve-wracking, but as a big slot, I wouldn't be worried about him. He picks apart zone coverage. This is his one thing he does really well. He sits in zones well, and he lays out for balls. So he's a guy that he has a lower upside but a higher floor. So he's a guy that I'm going to be drafting with confidence to produce his first year and second year, and maybe he doesn't produce more than that, but he's going to be someone who's going to step into a role and become a good wide receiver 2 right away. I don't think he has wide receiver 1 upside like we see with the tier 1 guys in this class, but Amon-Ra St. Brown is definitely a guy to watch for to take someone like a Corey Davis role in that Tennessee Titans team. I really like him a lot, and he's a guy that I think that we should be drafting second round, probably 203 to 205.
Super flex or single quarterback?
This is super flex, in my opinion, because the running back class, we're saying the running back class is not very deep. It is very thin. So outside of that, you're going to be drafting a lot of wide receivers this year. So that's why we're going over the wide receivers now, so that you guys can start getting a look on them. So if you want to watch someone, Terrace Marshall and Amon-Ra St. Brown are my number 6 and 7 guys on the list. Do you have any thoughts or opinions? Do you have any names that should be there instead?
No, Maddie, I am not a Devy guy. I'm not a college game watcher. I am literally so how I got here is I just started listening to the Dynasty Warzone a year and a half ago, and I would guys like so-and-so, okay, I got to get him on my team. Yeah, okay, I got to get him.
Well, you're going to have to start watching.
Or I'm just going to keep piggybacking because I ain't got the time to watch, because I can't be – look, I'll be the injury guy. I'll be the bet guy. I'm getting good with the props, but college football, it just –
you have to start becoming a little bit of a Devy guy.
I'll become a Devy guy, but you're going to be my consultant.
It's the whole other beast. I will be your consultant through. I'll hold your hand through the steps. It's really not that hard of a thing to do. All you have to do is watch a little bit of highlights. I'll be the money guy. Oh, I like this guy.
I'll be the guy. I'll put in the money, and you put in the brains for Devy. How's that?
Sure.
How's that sound?
Sure. And here's my other brain. Here's my brain taking over the number 8 slot. He is a guy out of UNC. He's not getting a lot of love, but he reminds me of Terry McLaurin a little bit. He reminds me of Deontay Johnson a little bit. His name is Dyami Brown. He is fast. He's 6'1". He's a little on the smaller side, but he doesn't play small. He plays big. He's got some, like I said, he's got speed to his game. He's got some good routes to his game. He can do everything you ask for him from an outside receiver. He can switch to the inside and play slot. I think that he's a tier 3 wide receiver in this class, and he's going to be the wide receiver 8 for me. I'm going to be drafting him pretty high. I'm going to be drafting him over a lot of guys that will surprise you guys in the rookie drafts, because I really like Dyami Brown. But I'm going to just leave it with that and just say Dyami Brown's good. Dyami Brown is very good at football. He has multiple 200-yard-plus games at UNC, whether that's a product of Sam Howell just tossing the rock over and over again because their defense is so bad. I'm not sure, but Dyami Brown is a dang athletic freak, man. Like, he's someone that cannot go unnoticed in your rookie drafts.
We got a couple of Tar Heels that are going to be sort of low key later round guys that could pop, right?
They should not be low key though. That's the thing. You should be.
No, but let's keep him low key, Matt. Come on.
Yeah, Javonte Williams. Shh. Don't
Yeah.
hype him up so much, please. I'm not going to talk about the other running back there because I actually prefer him over Javonte Williams. And yeah, don't say his name though, because if you say his name, he's going to spread like wildfire. And speaking about wildfire, a guy that runs like wildfire, his routes, he's so good at running routes, is Chris Olave out of Ohio State. You might have heard his name because he's a very prolific college receiver. He reminds me a lot of Brandon Lloyd. He doesn't have elite speed, but he's a good route runner, and he can get physical downfield, and he high points the ball well. So he's a guy that you should be
Brandon
watching.
Lloyd had like a 1,400 or 1,500 yard year, right?
Oh yeah, I mean Brandon Lloyd was a good receiver for the times he peaked, and that's why I think Chris Olave could be a good NFL receiver as well. He creates separation really well with his physicality. And he's always open too, which is the cool thing to see at Ohio State. He's a technician, so you're going to see him get open. He's got a good target share. And then Garrett Wilson has come in, and Garrett Wilson is going to be the Debbie darling for next year. He's the wide receiver to watch. But Chris Olave has been putting up production right next to Garrett Wilson, who's going to be one of the top receivers drafted in the next year's class. So Chris Olave for me is going to be one of the top receivers to watch. He's my wide receiver number. I think we're on wide receiver 9 now because we had Terrace Marshall, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Diami Brown, and now Chris Olave. And now my last wide receiver for you guys to end it before we start our MRI report. It is Seth Williams out of Auburn. Seth Williams, he throws up the X. He's an X receiver. He's very dominant. I think people are really fading Seth Williams because he's not the athletic freak that we want him to be, because he's not 6'4". He's not running a 4.4 40, but he's 6'2". He runs probably about a 4.5, and he's a dominant trait receiver. He's going to go up and pluck the ball out of the air. Reminds me a lot of Marvin Jones in that regard. So he's someone who could be a good target for that third round that you're looking at. You're looking at names, and Seth Williams is there. He's a guy that was a Debbie darling as well as freshman year. He popped at Auburn. So look for Seth Williams in your rookie drafts. He's my wide receiver 10 in the class. This is always going to change with a small school. Guys coming up from the Senior Bowl. We're not seeing them yet, so we'll see those guys come in. And hopefully these guys stay pretty high up in my list because I really like them. And they're guys that we didn't get a chance to touch on in the Dynasty Warzone main pod. So I'm just giving you guys some names here to keep an eye on, because this is the start of the Dynasty offseason. This is the start of our scouting. You really have to start looking at rookies now, because at the end of the college football season, you're going to start seeing some bowl games. You're going to start seeing some Zach Wilson takes. So get ready for those. Get ready for your Dynasty drafts now before it's too late. So start watching these guys, start getting your opinions, and don't let other people drive your opinions unless it's like Ray GQ, because no, I wouldn't even let me drive your opinions. Get your own opinions out there, because it's all about what you feel. So if you make the mistake in the end of the day, it's on you. That's what I've always done for myself before I became an analyst and everything. It's always on me. So, I'll put out lists. I know that Jerry brought to light a list that I made in 2019 for the NFL draft before anything happened. I had Darrell Henderson as my running back 1. Why? But, that's a part of the process. You learn what you've done wrong. You learn what traits to look for. You learn what to watch. That was the first running back class I scouted for Dynasty specific. So it was a little bit of a rough process for me, but it's a learning.
We love our rookies. We love our prospects. We love our rookies.
Mm-hmm. And that's something that you got to get into, Kyle, because you'll love it too. Everyone in Dynasty who's an addict will love scouting rookies if you get into it. It's very fun.
Was that the Rashad Penny Sony Michelle year, or is that a year after?
That was the year after.
Okay.
It was the year where it was Josh Jacobs, Miles Sanders.
David
that was
Montgomery.
before the combine. Yeah.
Got it.
And I saw about 12 minutes of highlights from Darrell Henderson of him not getting tackled at all. So I was like, I like Darrell Henderson. But that's how my scouting process was back then. But now I look a lot more into what they're doing and how they're playing the game and their awareness to defensive schemes. And let's talk about some injuries now. Let's go into the MRI.
Quick aside, I looked up some Brandon Lloyd stats. Dude was basically Have you ever heard of an 8th-year breakout?
Yeah, Corey Davis.
No, Corey Davis isn't even close to his 8th year. Brandon
Is he
Lloyd.
not? I think he's been in the year for 12. He's not been in the league for like 12
Corey
years.
Davis is only like 26 or 27 years old.
I know.
Like you. Brandon Lloyd in his 8th season. So in his 3rd season, he was very close to breaking out. He had 48 receptions on 109 targets for 733 yards and 5 touchdowns. That's not quite a breakout, but he was on his way. That was his 3rd season. And then 5 years later, he went for 77 on 153 targets for 1,448 yards and 11 touchdowns. That like I want to know who else matches that profile. That's fucking fascinating.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Maybe
that
Marcus Goodwin.
That was his 4th team. That's crazy.
Travis Fulgham-esque. Let's see the latest breakout ages for wide receivers. But while we do that, let's talk about Matthew Stafford.
All right, let's
Matthew Stafford suffered a rib injury. We're going into our MRI report. This is your MRI report for Week 14. Yeah. This is sponsored by my friend Will at Viridian Global. Viridian Global brings you the best fantasy apparel in the land. They bring you some nice shirts. They bring you some nice hats. We got Dynasty Warzone hats now. That's right. Go get yourself some Dynasty Warzone apparel at ViridianGlobal.com. Viridian Global. You can use the Viridian, get some Viridian Wear apparel with code MBC Matty Big Chest, as in that 2020, and go get yourself 10% off on some Viridian Wear apparel. So, this is brought to you by my friend Will. What's up, Will, if you're watching? And let's go to some Matthew Stafford, because I love Matthew Stafford. What's happening with him? What's this injury, and what's he going to do for Sunday?
Excuse me. So basically at this point, it sounds like the Lions are not going to practice Matthew Stafford at all this week. So we will see a lot of DNPs. He's a veteran, which can be expected for injured veterans at this time of year. I think we're going to see him as questionable on game day, but I am not banking on Matthew Stafford this year, or this week, excuse me. What are the Lions playing for? Not a whole lot other than pride. They're going up against the Titans. So I would not hold my breath for Matt Stafford this week, Matty. Look for any other option.
Chase Daniels. Let's go Chase Daniel. Put it up to Marvin Jones for about 100 yards, please, for my fantasy playoffs. I'll be happy. But if Matthew Stafford's not a go, Marvin Jones, I think his upside is actually increased, because he's going to be the guy Chase Daniel goes to for a majority of the game. I would not be starting some guys. I would not be starting Quintez Cephas. I would not be starting Mohamed Sanu. I would not be starting.
What about Hawk?
I would still start Hawkinson in a pinch. I think that Hawkinson and Marvin Jones are going to be his go-to guys in the passing game, along with DeAndre Swift. I think that DeAndre Swift is the big name to watch here, because if he's a go, which he should be a go again, he's going to be the game plan. He's going to be the guy that they make the game plan around, because what are the Tennessee Titans not good against? They're not good against stopping screens. They're not good against stopping the run. And DeAndre Swift is very good at those two things. He's very good at rushing the ball. He's very good at catching the ball. DeAndre Swift is going to be the game plan. DeAndre Swift's going to get fantasy points. DeAndre Swift's going to be the MVP for this week in fantasy for the playoffs for us. So just going to put that out there now. DeAndre Swift's going to have a nice game he's not going to have a game like Derrick Henry, but he's going to have a nice game.
I love to hear that.
As someone who owns so much Swift, it has to happen. So
just trade him away like you did Gibson, you asshole.
I will never trade away Swift. Gibson is expendable. Gibson, when I need someone,
there's literally no reason to trade away Swift right now.
There's zero, because he's either going to win you a championship, or he's just going to be someone you keep on your team.
Or he's a good asset for next year. Yeah,
exactly. So he's one of those guys who you can't trade if you have him. He's kind of like Antonio Gibson. If you have him, unless you're going to win a playoffs, then you trade him. And let's go to our next guy, Alex Smith. what happened with Alex Smith? Why didn't he play through the game? Was this some like soreness or what?
So apparently he had some calf tightness. No, not like a cow calf, but like his lower leg calf. But it sounds like it's optimistic that he will play this week. I know there is, Memphis and I talked about the line, and the Seattle is going to Washington to play on Sunday at 1:00. That's a west to east travel for an early slate. We both like Washington. I like the under in this game, but I like the under more if Haskins plays. Probably, maybe, I don't know. There's still the chance of a lot of turnovers if Haskins plays, but both on the football team covering plus, I think they're 5 or 5.5. If Alex Smith plays, probably even better if Gibson plays, because that's just one more pretty solid weapon for the football team. But I think Alex Smith will be.
Let's go out on. Let's. I'm sorry, I had some internet issues, but let's say that Gibson doesn't play. Let's say that Smith doesn't play. Some guys that I'd be benching in this week matchup, because it is a weak matchup for these teams for the offense, because they're both going against some pretty decent defenses. Washington offense being worse, so they're going up against a defense that can probably hold them in check. Then Seattle going against one of the top defenses in the NFL. I'd be benching J.D. McKissick if Dwayne Haskins is a starting quarterback. I'd be benching Logan Thomas if Dwayne Haskins is a starting quarterback. But if Alex Smith is healthy and playing, I'd be starting them both. And then I would also, I would start Terry McLaurin either. I'm having internet issues, I think, again, but I would start them either way. And then if Gibson plays, I would not be starting him in a playoff matchup. I would be very trepidatious of playing him. I would be probably looking for a better option, because I would not trust him to come back fully healthy after that gruesome toe injury. We saw how bad that toe looked.
I'm not optimistic about Gibson at all. I feel like you're only Washington is in the playoff hunt, obviously, but I don't know.
Well, of course, they're in the NFC East. I think every team in the NFC East is still in the playoff hunt, besides maybe Dallas.
I think Dallas is even.
Wow, that's just surprising. And they added an extra wild card spot this year, so there's another team making it, but that doesn't affect these NFC East teams because they're not even going for the wild card. They can't even make a wild card.
No wild card chances for the NFC East teams.
I think they need to make an NFC East rule where if one of these teams are just so bad that they just make it a wild card spot. But
so Washington 6-7 at the top, and the Cowboys are 4-9 at the bottom, and there's 3 games to be played. So
you're telling me the football team is number 1?
Yeah.
Wow. That's shocking. The Giants, I know, have 2 wins over the football team. So,
but they're only 5-8.
Exactly. So if Giants win one more game, the Washington football team loses a game, then look what happens there. They're gonna. Yeah. It's a
big advantage.
Yeah. So let's look for the Giants to make the playoffs. Washington and miss it. That's my assumption, because Washington doesn't have the easiest schedule coming up. And then
the Giants don't either. The Browns.
No, they don't.
The Browns are going to be tough. Daniel Jones is banged up, and I think they play the Ravens in Week 16, and then in Week 17 they play the Cowboys.
The Giants' defense has been as impressive as the Washington defense this year for what they've been given.
Agreed.
If that makes sense. The fact that they can stop the run and defend the pass, that's something that the Detroit Lions can't do. So I am impressed.
So my big bet this week is the Eagles getting 6 against the Cardinals, and I think that spread is an overreaction to the Cardinals blowing out the Giants. But the Giants blowout isn't because the Giants defense wasn't able to play well against the Cardinals. It was Daniel Jones isn't healthy. I also wonder if Daniel Jones might be a head case of a quarterback. He might just be in his own head.
He's trying to do too much at once.
Exactly. He's at least with Colt McCoy going into Seattle, the Giants knew what they had. Colt McCoy probably knew what he had. They knew what they had to do. They knew they had to play well on defense. They knew they had to contain Russell Wilson, and they knew they had to run the ball on offense.
Exactly.
All of a sudden, Daniel Jones is the quarterback again, and it's like,
what do we do?
Gunsling Central, guy turns the ball over every fucking 15 plays.
Yeah. And, that's something that Daniel Jones is known for, is just trying to do too much. Like we said, he's that quarterback who's just trying to do a little too much. He reminds us of Stafford, when he was playing as a rookie. He was trying to do a little too much sometimes. But, he doesn't have Calvin Johnson there. He doesn't have a guy who's going to catch his 50-50 balls that are going to be interceptions.
He needs some weapons.
So he does need some weapons.
He needs a healthy Barkley. He needs.
Guess who Vegas has is the number one odds for Kenny Golladay? It's the New York Football Giants.
Wow. Whoa.
Yeah. So, you add a big receiver there who can go get those 50-50 jump balls that Daniel Jones likes to throw, because every throw Daniel Jones throws is almost a 50-50 jump ball. So
20-80 ball.
Yeah, he throws punts. So let's let Kenny Golladay go catch his punts down the field and see some success there. But on our injury report as well is Deebo Samuel. Deebo Samuel is continually on our injury report. He's a walking injury.
Yeah.
Bless Deebo Samuel, because this man's hamstrings are gone.
Yeah. I think he's already been ruled out for the week, I believe, right?
He has. You want to talk about that trade that someone who took over your team made for Deebo Samuel?
Oh my God, Baylor! If you're listening, I love you. I appreciate you taking on my fantasy teams, but having Deebo rated so high and AJ Brown rated so low, it will haunt you. There are miles between AJ Brown and Deebo Samuel for so many reasons.
No, he said there's only a second between them. Come on. So we'll digress there. We'll end it here with this little joke of we're poking fun at Baylor because he was new to Dynasty, and we love it.
It's all in jest. He's a patron. He took over my Patreon Dynasty teams because I stretched myself thin. I wanted to do the drafts and quickly realized this is not manageable. I'm in too many leagues, businesses. It was my personal work with being a physical therapist and some things being in limbo from basically August till now. They're still being figured out. It was just too much, so I handed them off to one of the newer patrons at the time, and it was basically I gave Baylor, I love you, but I handed a toddler the keys to the Rolls Royce, and all of a sudden it was like just flying out the driveway, and I'm like, no, what the hell is
He's got the baseball bat.
AJ Brown is potentially a top 5 wide receiver Dynasty asset. And
he is. He is
on the IR. So anyway, we digress. But okay, so we got some other quick injuries to get to. Mike Gesicki, he was my guy last week. I hope you fucking put him in your lineup if you did. He was my DFS tight end, and he fucking laid the pipe. 2 touchdowns. He was he hit my prop. I had him over 4 receptions. I think he hit 5 or 6 before he went down. But he went down with a pretty nasty shoulder injury. And while they haven't ruled him out, he's very much looking like limbo. He's not going to play this week. Yeah, very much in limbo. I would not depend on him. If you're leaning on him, look for other guys. If Cole Kmet is available still, especially in redraft, because in Dynasty, Cole Kmet should not be available. He's got relatively high draft capital. He's in a good position. He's only behind Jimmy Graham. He's slowly grown this year. But yeah, don't expect Gesicki to be the guy, especially they play the Patriots this week at home. It should be a chess match of a game. I like the under in that game, yada, yada.
I like Brian Flores in that matchup against his mentor, who does well.
I do too.
Yeah.
The Dolphins have the I feel like the Dolphins have the better personnel. And also, so this was something I forgot to bring up with Memphis when we talked about this game, because it wasn't a big like or a big bet for anybody, but in the 2010s, the Dolphins Patriots rivalry, the Patriots were 9, so that's 10 years. The Patriots were 9-1 at home, and then it was a 5-5 split at Miami.
Wonder what that says about Brady playing in Florida.
Yeah, well, very interesting. And then in the 2000s, the 2000 to 2010 or 2009, it was 7-3 Patriots, and then 6-4 Dolphins. So the Dolphins have the edge at home, and that's Brady's wheelhouse. Is like 2000 to 2020 is basically Bill Belichick, Tom Brady against the Dolphins. And I think the Dolphins have the best coach and the best player personnel they've had. And you could say that the Patriots have the worst personnel that they've had in those 20 years. The Dolphins do have the injuries and yada yada, but I just still feel like that. Like Brian Flores is aware that Bill Belichick is a guru against rookie quarterbacks, and I expect him to take the right steps to limit Tua's risk taking and potential for mishaps.
I think it's fair to say that Cam Newton might be the worst quarterback the Patriots have had in the last 20 years.
I like that take. That's a very good take, Matty. Well done.
Yeah, so I think that even some of the replacements that they've had for Brady have been better than Cam Newton have for passing the ball. Even Hoyer, when he was playing for Brady, not this year, but even Hoyer was as productive in that offense, passing wise. But that Patriots-Dolphins game is going to be ugly. I think it's going to be a defensive matchup. It's going to come down to whose linebackers can play better against the running backs. They're going to try to abuse Savannah Ahmed against the Patriots, and I like that. I like Savannah Ahmed this week a lot. I'm a little blurry, but YouTube, hi YouTube viewers. Yeah, so we're going to end it with that take from Dr. Kyle on the Miami game. Mike Gesicki probably won't be playing, but they're going to keep him in a shroud of doubt because that's what NFL coaches do.
That's what Brian Flores learned from Bill Belichick. Just put everybody as questionable until
don't mark anybody out yet.
Yeah,
make them game plan for them and then take them out. So and that's what they're going to do with Mike Gesicki. He's probably not going to play, in my honest opinion. That injury looked pretty bad. So hope you guys had a good playoff week one. Here's to you guys at home for week 2. So keep it light and easy, keep it breezy. Have a good one.